Getting a notification for ourselves being on the air. Okay.
Yeah. Do you? We need like intro music.
Yeah, we need to do that. Anyway, though, we're live. Welcome to the RotoPros pre-lock show with Matt and Josh. We're gonna break down the slate here. All right, where should we start? I guess there's a ton of pitching to sort through. I think 5 pitchers at 10,000 or more. So, four that are 10,000 or more. Then we've got Maeda at 97. Yeah,
exactly. I know it's only 3 actually. Robbie, Garrett, and Carlos,
and Jose Barrios up there too at 11,000.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My bad.
So lots to choose from. I honestly I can't really get a great feel for this slate. The pitchers are all just so close. Like I had said on the podcast last night that I didn't like Garrett Cole, but I mean, Cole is probably the best of any of these pitchers, just pure pitching ability. It depends how much you buy into what he's done so far this season. I don't know. Josh, what are you looking at for these top guys?
I'm a big Garrett Cole fan in general. I do agree with you. I think he's probably been overperforming a little bit. I'll be honest, I haven't had the chance to back it up with some stats right now to reference. But just, the guy's been pitching like probably the Cy Young so far. He's technically the 4 starter for the Astros. So, usually those guys don't just randomly become Cy Young winners, overnight. But Garrett Cole is definitely worthy of consideration and worthy of that price so far, the way he's pitched this year. I'm trying to find their odds right now in the game. I believe.
So the Astros are the biggest favorites of any team tonight, even though they're in Seattle. Yeah.
So what do you, before I continue, what do you make of that real quick? Do you think, is that a big boost for Cole in your opinion, or
No, I think it's just about right. I mean, Mike Leake is like an average pitcher, just kind of mediocre. The Mariners offense is above average, not great, but it's not a good matchup for Cole. So the price on everyone is just kind of a little high because all of these pitchers are in tough matchups. So
I agree with you. I would probably just to go back on the question you were just asking me. Cole is a worthy top option and worthy of that price, so it doesn't drive me crazy. But my top 2 guys are probably Robbie Ray and Carlos Carrasco. I just think Robbie Ray is a little bit underpriced. I know he hasn't been incredible this year. He's his xFIP. We were just talking about this, is a little bit lower than his FIP. So maybe he's been giving up a little bit more high fly balls than usual. Which should level itself out over time. But what was this guy, 12K last year?
It's a hard matchup. We'll have to see if Evan Longoria is in. But just to clarify the xFIP thing for Robbie Ray, he's always going to be like that, where his FIP is higher than his xFIP.
Oh, okay. Sorry, in case I'm new to that, so I'm trying to learn.
So here's the deal with Ray. He gives up a lot of fly balls all the time. He's not a ground ball pitcher. And he gives up a lot of hard contact. So he's fly ball heavy, and he gives up a higher percentage of those fly balls going over the fence. Part of that is where he pitches in Arizona, and he does make some starts in Coors Field every year. So we'll have to see what the humidor effect is. The roof is open tonight, so more of a hitter's park. So Robbie Ray, as a real-life pitcher, he's really just average. Like he's very walk prone. He's home run prone because he puts a lot of balls in the air and he gives up a lot of hard contact. So all of that together, it's walks and home runs. I mean, it's not very good.
Not a good thing for a pitcher.
Except that he strikes out everyone. So he's able to do that too. For DFS, I mean, he's one of the better options because even though he's kind of mediocre or slightly above average overall, we care mostly about strikeouts. So he's good for that. But it's a hard matchup.
People to sit on the Giants? Any of the lefty mashers that you're worried about?
Well, Longoria missed last night's game. We're not going to know until after lock if he's playing, probably. That game starts at 9:40. Maybe we'll know right before lock. It's tough to evaluate that lineup without knowing if Longoria is in or out. But Posey, McCutchen, and then Nick Hundley is really good against lefties too.
Yes.
Hunter Pence has just been awful this year, so that's like a boost in Ray's favor. It's really hard to figure out if this is a plus or minus matchup. I would lean towards it being a minus matchup because it is a hitter's park, even with the humidor and the roof is open. And also the Giants don't strike out as much as other teams. And if Longoria is in, then it is actually a decent lineup.
Yeah, I'll have a little Ray. You know, you kind of convinced me. You spoke me down a little bit, but I still would have Carrasco as my top option.
Well, I'm sort of arguing with myself here because I don't know that Ray isn't my top option. I'm really just unsure about him. But you mentioned Cole, how he just randomly got better. Mm-hmm. And I don't actually think it's very random because he's on the Astros now.
That's actually right. You know something? You're absolutely right. You know, I don't even know why I said that. He was the ace for the Pirates. So if that's what you're getting at, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's more random that he's a 4 now than a 1.
You know? Well, no. It's not just that. I mean, the Astros are as analytically minded as any team. And I think they've actually made changes to his everything for this year. Like there are tangible changes in his pitch mix. He's actually throwing. There's some stat I was looking at where his 4-seamer has less horizontal movement and more vertical movement. Pitchers don't literally break up, but it's just that it spins more, so it falls less quickly. So it has like the rise effect. He's doing that better this year, and his fastball is getting way more swings and misses. But he's also throwing his fastball way less often. He's throwing all of his off-speed pitches more often, which is something the Astros preach a lot. So maybe these changes are tangible. Like Cole is incredibly talented, and it did seem weird that he wasn't pitching that well last year. So maybe he just is an ace now, and we might just have to accept that. And if that's the case, then the price is just kind of reasonable for him. So I'm not sure about Cole either, but if salary weren't an issue, I still think he is the highest expected output of anyone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's been pretty absurdly consistent too. I'm not a big Barrios guy tonight. The guy's been awesome this year too, but
I'm surprised you're not on him because there's a great narrative for him. The game's in Puerto Rico, and he was the ace of the Puerto Rico World Baseball Classic team.
I changed my mind. No, I'm just kidding. Look,
he's pitching in front of his home fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, him, and you saw what that did for Mr. Smile yesterday. Actually, is Jose Ramirez from Puerto Rico too? I know Lindor is, obviously.
Lindor is. I don't think Ramirez. I don't know where Ramirez is.
I just assumed every Hispanic player on the Indians who hit a home run yesterday was from Puerto Rico. So.
Yeah, although Encarnacion is Hispanic and he put up 0 points. That was pretty annoying.
So, yeah, he just shuts down my Puerto Rican narrative theory.
Yeah. No, I guess I don't dislike the Puerto Rican narrative. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't think that there would be some change in Barrios's mentality for this game. I just don't think we can really quantify it. Like, it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. Maybe he tries too hard. Right. So I'd rather just not consider it.
Definitely. That's very astutely put. But what are your thoughts on Carrasco?
Carrasco just seems okay to me. So there's this weird thing with Carrasco where his ERA is like a full point lower in road games for his career. He strikes out more guys, walks less guys. Like, for whatever reason, he doesn't pitch well in Cleveland. So maybe just being away from Cleveland, but it's not really a road game because there's no home field advantage for either team. They're both away. Maybe we get like the road version of Carrasco, which is the better version. I'm kind of just going with the Vegas line here for this one because it's so unclear. And we don't really know exactly what the park factors are in the Puerto Rico stadium. Like, the ball seemed to be carrying pretty well.
I figured if anyone knew, it would be you.
I mean, well, I have a hunch, but I don't think anyone really knows. I mean, it seems like a slight hitter's park, but it's hard to say what the real effect is.
You take look, obviously it's very small, but do you think humidity, being in a very humid environment, impacts the players?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the ball carries a little more when it's humid, so there's that. It definitely does carry a little bit more in humidity.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm assuming it would be pretty humid there tonight.
Yeah, no, it is supposed to be. I was looking at like Kevin Roth Roto Grinders.
Like more humid than I would imagine it's not that much more humid than places like Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, I think Arizona is the best hitting environment tonight, which is why I'm very skeptical of Ray. Like, if we want to get into offense, I think it does make sense to have both sides of that game if you're doing multiple lineups, like having Giants hitters in some lineups and Ray in other lineups.
What is the over/under on that game? It's only 8.5, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. In terms of hitting environments, it's definitely the most attractive.
Well, the thing with the over/unders, I guess, like some pitchers compared to other pitchers, is that there's some games where it's an 8.5 total and you can be pretty sure it's going to end up like around 6 to 10 runs. But when Robbie Ray is pitching, like, if this is a 3-0 game or a 10-8 game, I wouldn't be surprised by either of those things.
He's one of those rare, like, I guess, combinations of statistically unimpressive ace. Does that make sense, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think like who else is in that category.
Cole Hamels.
Kind of rare. Cole Hamels, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Cole Hamels has been like that this year, but last year and the year before, and
Porcello.
Rick Porcello is just less good, I think. Like, I'm just trying to think pitchers who strike out a ton of guys, walk a ton of guys. I mean, there are some pitchers, like Blake Snell has a little bit of that. Luis Castillo has a little bit of that, but they're just less extreme. Like, no one knows it.
I didn't know Blake had any sort of control issues. But yeah, that makes sense.
But Ray is so much more.
John Lester?
Lester, I mean, just not nearly the same walks or strikeouts. I mean, 13 Ks per nine and 5 walks per nine. No one does that.
That's Robbie's numbers?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, Carlos Zambrano did something like that when I think he was the guy.
Big Horse. I remember him. I think I had his MLB Showdown card back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't pitched in a while. I think that's who it is. So yeah, I don't.
Well, okay, sorry, we're getting off topic. My fault. So okay, we agree. It sounds like that Ray, Carrasco, Cole are kind of all. I don't know. Are they all? Do we have a clear-cut favorite there?
No. Well, I do think that using Jose Barrios doesn't make a lot of sense because he's just so expensive, and even if he pitches a good game against the Indians, it's unlikely to be a high strikeout game. The Indians are a good offense. Maybe they don't score a bunch of runs against him, but Barrios striking out a lot of Indians is not a likely outcome. So I'm off Barrios. Like that I'm clear on. But yeah, I think mixing Cole, Carrasco, and Ray could make sense. And the hitters aren't that expensive. So like I don't know, Tyler Skaggs is interesting to me at his price. Vince Velasquez too. There's upside for those guys. I don't think we have to reach down there. Are you considering any cheap pitching for this slate?
No, I haven't built yet, but
I've got it in front of me. I can do it while you're talking. Just try to see.
I don't think so. Look, the cheapest guy that I was even going to ask you about was Porcello, but I don't really see a reason to have to go lower than that. I'm not a Steven Matz fan, so no chance I can get sold on that.
I'm not either. I'm not a Steven
Matz.
It's
only a matter of time before he gets feel it coming.
Yeah. All right.
Arguably, but we'll see.
All right, I'm just plugging in the lineup to see like kind of what fits. I mean,
do you like Porcello at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just the Angels offense is really good. Like David Price didn't even pitch well against them last night. The Angels only scored 1 run, but they had runners on base every inning. Price had like 6 strikeouts and 4 walks, a bunch of hard hit balls that just went for outs. Mm-hmm. And Porcello is not nearly as good as Price. I just don't think. I mean, Porcello had
7,700. What do you think his price should be?
I think that 7,700 is a fair price for him in general, but it should be lower because of the matchup, and it's a road game.
Fair enough.
Just downgrade him because it's on the road. Like if Porcello were 6,000, I'd start looking at him for this game.
Fair enough.
I would use him in the 7s in a better matchup.
So one guy we didn't speak of up there really was Kenta Maeda. Are you? The more I look at it, he could very well find his way into some of my lineups. So curious.
No one's gonna roster him.
Yeah, he's like sandwiched in between some sexy names that definitely plays a factor sometimes. I don't have numbers to support that, but I think
I think you're right. Yeah, when it's like not a name recognition guy, and it's especially not a guy who's pitched well recently, like his ERA for the season is really high.
Just a good matchup, but that's
actually it's not.
Ballpark, pitching park, but yeah, the matchup itself isn't amazing. San Diego.
So Maeda's last game was really weird because he gave up a ton of runs, but I think most of them ended up being unearned runs because he himself made throwing errors in the field, and it cost him a bunch of. It cost him the game. He ended up only pitching like 3 innings, but it was kind of an unlucky game. And also, like if you give up a home run after an error is committed with 2 outs, it doesn't count against your ERA. So like it gets very fluky. That's kind of why like small sample ERA is kind of crazy to look at. But for the year, Maeda has 15 strikeouts in 8 innings or something? Where did it go? 14 strikeouts in 8 2/3 innings. And the swinging strike percentage is 13.3. I mean, he's been as good peripheral-wise as anyone. Like, he's been arguably the best pitcher in baseball by his peripherals so far.
Now I got to plug him into Fangraphs and see an example of someone who Matt considers one of the best pitchers in baseball.
So, yeah, I won't say that he is one of the best pitchers in baseball, but through 8 2/3 innings, he is the best peripherals of almost anybody. Like,
very different just for a sec. I know a lot of our people who watch, I mean, it's not like we have millions of people watching, but some people who watch don't always know the stuff we know. It's kind of the point of the show. And I don't even know all the stuff you know sometimes. So I'm trying to educate myself along with the viewers. But when you're looking at a guy like Maeda right now, and you just said what you said, what do you other than typing him into Fangraphs, what particular are you referencing? So maybe our guys can get to know what they should look out for.
Yeah, that's fair. We probably assume that people know too much with all of these.
No, I don't even mean it like a negative thing. No,
I think you're right though. I definitely think you're right. Because
sometimes people are afraid to ask.
Ks per 9 innings is pretty self-explanatory. Right. Like that's just trying to predict how many strikeouts a guy's going to get.
Yeah, 14.5.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, yeah, 14.5 is a really high number, but it's a small sample of innings.
It's funny. We were just talking about guys with similar numbers to Ray, and this guy. He literally here's the one. He's got almost a 5 walk per game, and then 14.5 Ks per 9. It's pretty drastic.
So I'm kind of willing to throw that out a little bit. The sample size is so small, like it literally it's under 9 innings. So using per 9 innings when he hasn't even pitched 9 innings yet, it's a little stupid. But even if you go by last year's Maeda stats, which is 25 starts, like that's a pretty good sample.
Mm-hmm.
So his K rate of 9.4 per 9. What we're looking at with swinging strike rate is kind of seeing if he got a little bit unlucky with sequencing. So maybe like if a pitcher gets swing and a miss 0-1, swing and a miss 0-2, and then on the 0-2 pitch, the batter grounds out. Like that's not really how that's going to play out in the long run. If you're ahead 0-2 enough times, you're going to start getting more strikeouts. That's just how it works.
Right.
So if a pitcher has a really low strikeout rate, but has a really high swinging strike percentage, then we can kind of expect that his strikeouts should start to come up. Before you weigh in on this, I guess the only exception to that is pitchers who just have awful control. So maybe it's someone who gets 2 swinging strikes in an at bat, but the other 4 pitches they throw are nowhere near the plate. So an example like that would be Ronaldo Lopez. I think he fits that perfectly where he's going to
wondered why you never liked him.
Yeah, I think he is a good DFS pitcher, but he also is worth stacking against because he's going to generate a lot of swing and misses and he has the potential for strikeouts. But most of the time he's just going to end up walking a lot of guys because he has no control right now. I mean, if he comes a little more refined, then I would like him a lot more, but he's a very boom bust kind of pitcher right now.
Gotcha. Okay, it's good. So I hope that was helpful. Let us know in the comments, guys. We're always trying to make the show better, and we need your input for that. Cool. So is there any other pitchers you'd like to discuss before we move over to offenses?
No, let's just try to rank what we've got here. I mean, for me, I think it's going to be. I think I may actually end up using Cole the most, even though last night I said he was the pitcher I had the least interest in. I think he's the safest choice. I think he's the best pitcher on the slate. And he's probably just fairly priced, but I'd rather just take the points than risk someone like Robbie Ray with too many lineups. So I could see myself using Ray in half of the other lineups. I probably won't be all in on Garrett Cole, but having 50% Robbie Ray exposure and then using Giants hitters in non-Ray lineups. So order of exposure for me, I think it'll be Cole, then Ray, and then a mix of Carrasco and Maeda. Do you see it differently than that, or do you want
not drastically? But I do agree that after our discussion, Cole will most likely be my number 1. I'm going to take a chance on Carrasco's road numbers. I don't quite agree with you that this isn't a road game just because there's no home team. I think the road factors, have to do with sleeping in a hotel, traveling to a place you're not necessarily accustomed to. And I'm actually checking right now to see if Carrasco's Puerto Rican. I don't think he is. But either way, again, I'm not taking these guys because they're Puerto Rican playing in Puerto Rico. But I do genuinely I think Carrasco's worth not gambling on. But there's no real clear-cut guys that I love tonight. Cole's probably the closest one to that. But because of the price, Cole's the closest one to it. Robbie Ray, off first glance, I thought, wow, this guy is too cheap, and the matchup isn't terrible. San Francisco just got dominated by his counterpart, Corbin, yesterday, who looked incredible. But I think now that we've kind of dug into the numbers a little bit more on Robbie Ray, I think them, especially being home in that hitting environment, is not safe enough for more than 25% of exposure for me. So I'll probably have, in my order, will probably be Garrett Cole number 1. and then very close between Carrasco, Maeda, and then a little Ray right after that.
Okay, so for me, I think it's Cole the most, and then just an equal amount of the other three. I do agree with you. Robbie Ray should be chalky. Like I think he's the highest owned pitcher on this slate. Definitely. And it probably has a lot to do with what you said, because Patrick Corbin was so good against the same Giants lineup last night, and Ray is actually like the same price that Corbin was yesterday. It just looks like the same matchup. Before we move to hitting, I guess the last thing I'll mention on pitchers is where the sharp money is for these games. So it looks like there's a heavy public bias towards the Diamondbacks, and sharps are definitely on the Giants side of that game. So the Diamondbacks have just kind of hovered in the -150 area for the whole day, despite getting all this public action. The line would have moved if sharper bettors weren't taking the other side. So, like, clearly sharps are on the Giants, and I think there's good reason for it, because Ray could implode at any time. Like, he's always susceptible for that. And then the other sharp money, very, very strong indicators on the under in the Dodgers-Padres game. So for me, that's a little bit of a bump to Maeda and a little bit of a downgrade to the Dodgers offense. And then nothing really going on in the Indians game as far as line movement. It's kind of just staying where it is. And then there's some line movement to the under in the Astros game. So slight bump for Garrett Cole there and slight downgrade to the Astros offense. But
sorry, one last question real quick. And this is, again, it's from our viewers, but I think a lot of people out there will be a little confused at our opinion of Robbie Ray. And like, especially when you just said he's like the chalk of the night. Part of that is recency bias, of course. Like you just said, a lot of people are going to assume he's going to do the same thing as Corbin last night. But can you kind of touch on why Robbie Ray wasn't this like ace in your opinion last year, whereas other people may remember him as a really, really top pitcher before he got hit in the head with that line drive?
Yeah, it's just he's a better DFS pitcher than a real life pitcher because of the strikeouts. And he's not that good in run prevention. Like he gives up a lot of runs. Last year, his ERA for the season was 2.89. So it actually was sort of an anomaly for him. But his ERA the year before that was 4.90. His career ERA is 4.13. So, I mean, last year he was pitching better than he ever had been. He was throwing a little bit harder, but he also was getting a bit lucky. Like his batting average on balls in play. So this is another. I'm totally fine to like talk through this stuff because I don't have great conviction about this slate anyway. So this can be more like
an educational.
Yeah, like a general strategy kind of thing. I mean, we will get to the offenses, but Robbie Ray's batting average on balls in play was 267 last year. League average is right around 300. So when a guy has a batting average on balls in play that is lower significantly than league average, there's either two things going on. He's really lucky, or he's really good at limiting hard contact. From what we know about Robbie Ray, he's terrible at limiting hard contact. Like his hard contact percentage was 40% last year. He gives up a lot of line drives, a lot of fly balls. So his batting average on balls in play should actually be above 300 most of the time. For his career, it's 319. So he was getting pretty lucky by that number last year, and that has a huge implication on ERA. So, I mean, it's hard to like say exactly where that happens in a game, but basically what that means is a lot of hard hit balls were just finding fielders. Like an abnormal amount of them were finding fielders compared to other years where, I mean, the balls are just hit hard, so they usually don't find fielders when they're hit that hard.
That's an awesome explanation. I that's really good. Perfect. Honestly, I think our viewers will appreciate that too. So should we move on to offenses?
Yeah, let me just give one final note on that. So,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My mistake.
No. I wanted you to weigh in first. So this just popped into my head. But there are pitchers who have low, BABIP for short, who have low ones every year, and it's because they're just good at generating weak contact. So Clayton Kershaw is the number one example. Like guys don't hit the ball hard against him, but more like fringy, like above average, not great pitchers. Like Kyle Hendricks is great at it. I'm trying to think of other examples. Like John Lester was good at it before he lost all his velocity. But yeah, there are pitchers who can keep their BABIP below 300 consistently.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't want to generalize here, but I feel like it's kind of like junk ballers. Not junk ball. I don't know. You said Kershaw, so people with
guys who just hit their spots better, basically.
Good arsenal of pitches. Okay, before we move on to hitters real quick, I just want to take a quick second to remind everybody out there about RotoPros.com. I'm not wearing my shirt right now. I just realized I should be. But, that's the one-stop shop for everything you need DFS. You know, we're always looking to improve here. We're always looking to add on to what we offer you guys. So you know, it's been a long journey here, and hopefully it'll continue for a lot longer. But rotopros.com, sign up now. You can always count on us in the chats. We're looking to coach you and just improve your game, build your bankroll every day. And we're a good group of guys with your best interest at heart. So, you know, you can do a lot worse out there. So check it out.
All right. Sounds good.
Do it.
All right. Offense. Let's do offense.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So I definitely like the Nationals tonight, even though Anthony Rendon isn't playing, and that is a concern. The other, and I'll just kind of like list off the teams that I'm considering, and I'll let you weigh in. I think both sides of the Braves-Phillies game are interesting. The prices are kind of lower than they usually are for those teams, and I don't think either pitcher is particularly good. And then we have the Diamondbacks are at home against Chris Stratton. That is a little bit expensive of a stack, so I'm not sure about that one. Just in terms of implied runs, though, they should score a lot. Then we have the Astros, who I really don't think I like. The Dodgers, I don't think I like. And then the Red Sox-Angels game is potentially interesting. So where are you – of those teams, or I guess if there's one I missed that you like, where are you looking for offense?
I will say about is Jake Lamb hurt? What's his deal?
Yeah, he was on the DL. He got hurt a few days ago.
Realize that. Just looking through their lineup real quick. I'm a big fan of Washington. They've been drinking our juice. They've been drinking a lot of pure green juice. So that's why they've been hitting home runs and coming back against the Mets. But I'm just kidding there. But earlier we talked about Mats. You can probably do better than me at referencing some numbers behind this, but I'm not a fan of his. I think he's very hittable, his stuff. I don't think he has great control. So when your location is off and you're not, you don't really have an overpowering arsenal of pitches, that doesn't usually bode in your favor. It's a beautiful day in New York. I think, everyone likes to play baseball in this weather. So, but the main thing that you said that I'll probably be stacking the most of would be the Atlanta-Philly game. Like I said, I haven't been building yet, so I don't know if I'll have too many game stacks here, but that's what I would guess is the most projected runs tonight, more than Arizona, San Francisco.
It's close, but there are a lot of games that are pretty similar. Yeah, it's close between those.
I'll also just say this. I think today is kind of a terrible slate, but that's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you. It's a lot of very, very similar choices, which is why I'm actually kind of leaning towards loading up on the Giants, because the ownership is going to be insanely low and Robbie Ray is going to be insanely chalky. So there is a lot of leverage there. Like that, I won't do that in more than half of my lineups or anything, but I think this is the kind of slate to play the ownership game more than usual.
Assuming they had the same lineup as last night, would you be stacking their righties for the most part? Yes.
I mean, Brandon Belt's a good enough hitter that I would use him against anybody. I just would hope that Longoria plays.
Right.
And if Nick Hundley plays, that's a boost too. Like sometimes.
Does he play first base for them?
Nick Hundley's their backup catcher.
Oh no, I know, but I'm saying when they play him with Buster, where do they usually stick him?
Posey usually plays first when Hundley plays.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or if it's in the American League, one of them DHs. But then Belt plays in the outfield, or Belt may just sit.
Oh, okay, that's what I was about to ask next. Okay.
Yeah, Belt plays in the outfield, not regularly, but he does do it on occasion.
Gotcha.
So I guess, the issue is if Pablo Sandoval's in the middle of that lineup, he's just so bad that it ruins everything.
The worst.
I would really hope that we get a Longoria update before lock. Like that's going to have a huge impact on the slate for me. Not that Longoria is some great hitter, but he's a decent hitter and Sandoval's a terrible hitter. So that's a pretty big impact. Like I'll have more Ray if Sandoval plays. I'll have less Ray and more Giants if Longoria plays.
Yeah, that's a big. I'd say that's a big impact.
The other big impact though on the Nationals, like I guess we'll talk about them.
Yeah, sure.
Anthony Rendon's not playing, and
right.
I would have liked Washington a lot more if he were in.
I thought you were a big Moises Sierra fan.
Yeah, I mean Moises Sierra is 2,500, so I would use him for sure. I would use him. I probably prefer Michael Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean those guys are fine. Ryan Zimmerman's been so awful this year, but his WRC plus is like 15.
That's crazy.
Yeah, what's
the average for that? 100?
100 is average. 100 would be below average for a first baseman, though. Like, it assumes it doesn't adjust for positions. So, like, 100 WRC plus for a catcher or shortstop would be very good.
Too small sample size, though, to worry.
It's such a bad number. Like, he's hitting so poorly that I'm a little concerned. But it is a small sample size. So, like, what are his counting stats? He's batting 121. He's hit 1 homer this year. But he's not striking out that much more than last year, and he's walking about the same amount. Like, I'm only mildly concerned. I think Zimmerman's going to be fine. Just seeing if he's hitting like an abnormally high percentage of ground balls or something. He actually is elevating the ball even more than he did last year. So Zimmerman was one of those like StatCast launch angle poster boys last season where he just started hitting way more fly balls. He's gotten even more extreme this year. So maybe it's to a fault where he's popping out too much. But I think Zimmerman's a good enough hitter where he'll correct it, and Steven Matz is a good pitcher to figure out your swing against.
How hard does Matz throw?
Matz is throwing – well, it's a little weird because it's kind of hard to figure out because he kind of mixes a cutter with his four-seamer. So it like from like the pitch data, when pitchers do that, like sometimes cutters get called fastballs, fastballs get called cutters, and it like cutters are slower, so it just kind of messes up the readings. But he seems to be like 93 to 95 range generally.
Okay.
But on the surface,
that's very hittable. Sorry.
Yeah, he's very hittable. On the surface, the strikeout rate. So I have his stats up in front of me now. Striking out 10.67 batters per 9 innings. But this is someone where that's just not a sustainable number because of the swinging strike number. Like this is an enormous gap. So Matz is only getting swinging strikes 6.4% of the time. That's like Mike Pelfrey low. Like no one is that low. And he was 7.1% last year. He was 9.8% 2 years ago, but that was before he got hurt. So like Matz he's not going to miss bats, and he's very hittable, like you said. So the Nationals should do very well against him. All right, technical errors. Oh, wait.
You there?
I think we're good.
It was getting real.
In and out. All right, stand by, everyone. I think we have Josh.
Has this ever happened?
Yes, this is the second time, I think. I don't know why. I can sort of hear you. I might have too many tabs open. Maybe I'm messing up the audio. All right. What do you think? Is it working? All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the broadcast. And I'm going to click it back on. So hang on.